welcome to the first episode of the Local Marketing Beat, brought to you by Uberall. My name is Christian Arriola, and I'm going to be your host today. The Local Marketing Beat is all about helping location marketers stay in the know on the hottest digital trends across the web. We'll surface the need-to-know updates related to local digital marketing and ask the experts what they know, why it matters, and what it means for location marketers. So what is the beat on the local marketing street this month? Let's get to it because we actually have two hot topics that everybody's talking about, every marketing out there, it's buzzing, right? Number one is ChatGPT and its potential to drive digital customer engagement at scale. So let's talk deep into that. And then number two, Apple Business Connect and some of the feedback that we're getting from our customers and from a lot of multi-location marketers. So for that, I want to give the welcome to our two guests today, the special guests, because this is our first episode. These are our first two guests. So Jennifer Stevenson, our VP of Product Marketing. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Christian. This is fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited. And Liz Sinclair, Director of Product Partnerships at Uberall as well. Welcome, Liz.
Thanks for having us, Christian. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be fun, guys. I think this is going to be really cool and also very insightful, right? Because you guys really can dig deeper into these topics. But before we jump into that, I want to ask you guys something that hopefully you can think on your feet here. And we can start with you, Jen. What was the last local business search you did and why?
Okay, so for those that know me, I have two teenage boys. And so my local searches are all around food and sneakers. And so I live in Hollywood, California, and we were recently, my son just turned 17 and he was wanting a new pair of Air Force Ones. So we were looking for a very specific colorway of Air Force One near me. Thankfully, lived right off of Melrose, so we were able to get that at above retail price, unfortunately, but we got it for his birthday. That was my last search.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm not surprised about that, right? They like to do some markups on those. Now, what about you, Liz? What was that last local business search you did and why?
It's funny you ask. It's actually completely around the other side of the world. So I'm based in Berlin, but I was just in Sicily, in Italy, just last week, and I had the most incredible almond cookies down there. You can't get these things anywhere else. So I got back a couple of days ago, and I was telling my partner about them, how good they were. So my most recent local search was where I can get these incredible almond cookies here in Berlin. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out for any good results. So I think I'm going to have to go back to Sicily for those cookies.
What a drag for you, Liz.
I know, what a disaster. But it did get me thinking. There's a real gap in the market there, isn't there, for specifically baked goods showing up in your local search results.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about gap in the market and how do you search for these things, right? Why don't we talk about ABC? Apple Business Connect. Personally, right? When it came out, I was so excited. Right? This was at the beginning of the year. It was a big deal because I've seen it in the past where if you had issues with Apple Maps data and even if you have just one location, but if you have thousands or hundreds of locations, it was pretty chaotic to fix one little thing, right? Like you would have to open tickets and get on the phone. I had to do it multiple times. So, talk to us, Liz, a little bit about this. Why should marketers really need to pay attention to this? Maybe build a strategy around Apple Business Connect. What's your take on that?
That's a great question, and I have to agree with you. It's a really exciting time for Apple Maps, and it's also about time, right? They're such a major player, particularly in North America, that they didn't have something like Apple Business Connect yet was surprising. So I think it's an amazing opportunity for brands at the moment to really take control of their listings. It's like you said before, it was previously quite chaotic, or it could be quite challenging for brands to manage their presence on Apple Maps. Like you said, it was quite manual, whereas now there's an API. Brands have got complete control and they can manage their multi-location businesses at scale from one place, and they know that all the data that they put in there will be what's published on the solutions. So on the one hand, it's Apple sort of catching up with some of their similar competitors, but with a typical Apple twist, let's say. So one of the great things involved with Apple Business Connect is Apple Showcases. And this enables brands to, as the name alludes to, showcase products and services about specific locations or a group of locations on their Maps listing. And this is a great marketing opportunity where the brands which act first will have a significant advantage in the market.
I think as a marketer, this has huge potential, like you say, but it's unclear, I think, when that's going to be available. I know they're launching in North America first, which makes sense. That's Apple's, home base, but also where they have all of the adoption, right? And but when is that really available to big brands to be able to start leveraging? And is it similar to how they work with Google? Like, what do marketers need to know?
Great question. So, I mean, Showcases is available now for North America, Australia, UK, and it's going to be rolled out to the rest of the world. What marketers need to know is that this is really big news for North America. And I would say, and I say that specifically because, I mean, everyone in North America has got an iPhone, right? Apple Maps is huge there, and their solution is the most advanced in North America. So if these brands aren't leveraging Showcases and connecting their to Apple Business Connect, they are missing out. In Europe, I think there's going to be a little bit of a slower uptake. The adoption of Apple Maps isn't as high in Europe, and that's also because the adoption of the iPhone isn't as significant in Europe. If you're looking at Germany, you've got 38% or so of smartphone users which use iPhones. France, it's even lower, it's 36%. So Android has got a significant hold on the market and other competitors as well, which means, of course, Apple Maps is not as prevalent over here at the moment, but that doesn't mean it's not coming. Apple are investing heavily in their Maps solution globally, and it's getting better every day. It's just, I think, for North America now, it's business critical, and for the European market, that shift will come. But Apple has to penetrate the smartphone market further and build that trust, because at the moment their competitor is still in the lead.
But Liz, in Europe, so the other thing that Apple's done that's really smart here is, not only do they have a big footprint with iPhone and iPad, but CarPlay. So that is really how people interact with Maps quite a bit when they rent cars. Oftentimes now when you plug it into your own car, right? So that's another area in North America where it's just standard, it's de facto in the cars you drive.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. This is what I mean. It's a non-negotiable point for North America. But if you look in Europe, more so, although CarPlay is available, for a long time Google Maps was available through CarPlay.
Oh, it's it's just not the default, right?
Exactly, but it really depends. It depends on the country, and the user. The Apple Maps solution isn't as advanced in certain parts of the world as it is in North America, but we know that's changing, and we see the differences day by day. We see the changes they've made in their most recent release and the improvements to the map solution, especially with 3D maps. It's incredible. So there will be a change. It's just not quite caught up with North America yet.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? Like this is the biggest difference in both sides of the world that we've seen. And when we're looking at, location marketers, we're talking about these guys and they're managing hundreds of locations. What do you think could be the impact of not really taking advantage of this opportunity, right? Because this is a new platform. This is where the leaders can really jump on and really maximize the results before everybody else does. What do you think is the impact on if they're not even claiming their profile, they're not even following what's going on with ABC?
Well, I mean, the impact is going to be negative, right? Apple Maps is going to get your data somewhere. You can either leave it to the aggregators or various other data suppliers, third-party data suppliers, to send business information to Apple. And Apple have got extensive or conduct extensive due diligence to make sure that their data that they publish is of the highest possible quality. But it's never as good as it is directly from the business. It's always going to be, you always run the risk of it being slightly outdated. So they're going to be publishing your business data anyway. It's just a matter of, do you want to make sure that they're publishing the right data from yourself? Do you want to own that and make sure that nobody else is making an impact there? None of your competitors are deliberately trying to sabotage your business. No bad actors are taking part there. You need to make sure that you're in control.
Yeah, and that's a great point, right? It's a matter of making sure the data is accurate, making sure that you have full control, like you said. I think that's a great point.
One of the most important things that we haven't mentioned yet as part of ABC is analytics. So the proof will be in the analytics, and this is a big first for Apple, who's a notoriously secretive organization to work with. Now they're making analytics available to those customers connected on Apple Business Connect, which means those brands will be able to see how many customers or prospects looked at their business listings, how many of them took an action there, how many of them clicked on or followed through on their showcase posting. So the brands can decide for themselves if it's worth it or not. But we're quite sure already from early results that it will be.
And now that you mentioned earlier results, I was going to ask, and you can jump in on this, Jen, as well. But I'm curious about what our customers, at Uberall think about this, because when ABC came out, it was pretty surprising. We were already fully integrated, everything was flowing, it was ready to go out of the gate. So this has been going on for a few months, right? Have you heard anything from customers that are they liking it? Are they not liking it? What do you think on that side?
Our customers' reaction has been overwhelmingly positive about Apple Business Connect. It's something our clients and brands have been asking for years, directly, indirectly, wishing for, hoping for something like this to be available on Apple Maps. So they're really excited. There's been a few teething problems along the way. As with anything that's brand new, fresh out from the developers, but working with Apple has been an overwhelmingly positive experience, and they're super open to feedback and iterating and making sure that they really bring the best possible solution to market.
On the analytics that Liz was talking about, that's super exciting for a marketer to think about. This is free advertising. This is free advertising. You can create posts to drive certain actions around promos or offers that you have that are nearby when someone's driving, looking at the map, when they're doing a near me search, and to have your showcase there, that is free advertising. So if you're not taking advantage of that, you need to start taking advantage of it. I don't think the word has gotten out about showcases and exactly what it is. So it's, similar to how marketers probably use Google Posts, right? Today. And, this is a big game changer when it's within a map and near me based.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, in typical Apple fashion, they've made their showcases product so sexy. Everything that you do with Apple has a great UI, a great feel to it, and a great aesthetic. And that they've continued that with the launch of Apple Business Connect, and their showcases products only contains high quality imagery.
And that's, speaking about sexy UI and sexy tools, why don't we change gears and talk about ChatGPT, Jen? Because this is something that, we could probably talk about it for hours, which we already have done in the past. Yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about how are you using ChatGPT? How are you experimenting with this, both in your work and in your personal life?
Yeah, well, I think like everyone, I'm using it for all the things that you're wanting to do to save time. So on the work side, I've used it to do first pass of writing a blog. I've used it in my personal life to respond to kind of, touchy email to my kid's school, right, that I wanted to get right. And in both cases, the way I used it was, to put that question to ChatGPT, how to respond to a principal to advocate for your kid, to see what comes back. And it is really great because it is just a starting place. And, same for, how would you write a blog on local SEO, just to see what happens. And it's, a lot of the information isn't exactly what I would say, but it gives you a place to start and saves you a ton of time. So I think I'm using it how everyone else is using it. I don't know, Liz, if you have something more interesting, you probably do.
To be honest, I'm using it for absolutely everything I possibly can do. I think it's such an incredible tool. I've used it to check out my rights as a tenant here in Germany. So for those of you who don't know, I live here in Berlin. And obviously all the laws in Berlin are written in German and they're quite long and complicated. So I use ChatGPT to check on my tenant rights in regards to having the doorbell not working on our building for some time. I also used it to get some inspiration for planning my birthday party later this year, which is always in the summer, and I'm so indecisive about what to do, but I always love to have a big birthday party. So I thought, well, if I can't make up my mind, maybe ChatGPT can do it for me. And another more recent one was I asked it to come up with a short story. So my partner's kids are here, and they always like to have a story at bedtime. So we asked it to come up with a nice 10-minute story with some wizards and like forest animals and whatnot. You give it some nice prompts, and it comes up with this beautiful fairy tale story.
Oh, that's fun.
That is great. I hadn't heard about, making stories and things like that. So Jen, if we dig a little bit deeper into the application and, promising use cases with not just ChatGPT, but similar AI technology out there for location marketers, what comes to mind? Again, outside of, hey, you can create a blog or you can create a piece of content. What other applications out there do you think are crucial or coming up in the near future with this technology?
Yeah, well, ChatGPT has taken the world by storm, right? Like this is the hot buzzword. I think everyone's trying to figure out, is there a there? Is this something that's going to actually move work and interactions and communications forward, right? Or is this just another, all smoke, no fire? I think with ChatGPT, what we're finding is that there is a lot of fire. And we've been playing around with it on the product side at Uberall for a while. And we've been using AI chatbot for a while. So for those that don't know, we have the capability to have messaging and conversations with customers, either through channels that you already have, social channels that you already have, through your Google business listings, and then also, adding your own local pages from your website. So there's a lot of areas where we're enabling conversation and engagement, right, as a platform with big brands on a local level, right? So that's just big in and of itself. But what the brands were telling us was, hey, okay, so I know that we can chat with our customers, but we have no resources to have a two-way chat with customers, right? And so so we started, a while back really looking at, well, what can we do to support our customers? And so we brought in conversational chatbot, but the version 1 that we had required programming of like, okay, here's sort of the decision tree that a customer might go down when they ask certain things. So we're going to pose certain things to them, and why we came out with the announcement around the digital revenue assistant is what we realized is that more often than not, when we're looking at the back end of that data, what's happening is customers are coming and asking about high intent purchases. So whether that's like they're in the middle of ordering something on a menu, they want to quickly chat about like, wait a minute, how many calories is in this? Or how do I know if this has peanuts in it or not? Or, whatever. Or, around like retail, is there an opportunity to get this delivered in my home next week, right? Can I come into the store? Like things around purchasing is like really the number one things that were coming up for our big retail and restaurant brands. And so we're really thinking, well, how do you support that when you don't necessarily have the resources 24/7 to arm your customer service team? And we thought, okay, ChatGPT. Because the thing that's super cool about ChatGPT, if you just go to their website and use it, right, it is having a conversation around what it can find on the internet out there in the world, out there in the interwebs. But if you take that same technology and you point it to a source of truth, which on Uberall, right, is around all of the location data information that we have on our businesses, then you can have really interesting things. You add all of the menu data that we have on our businesses, the inventory data that you have on our businesses. And then it's not where ChatGPT is making assumptions based on God knows what out on the internet, which is incredibly risky. It's actual data that you would want a customer service rep to communicate, right? So we can do a lot of that heavy lifting when you don't necessarily have that 24/7 chat capability. You can turn ChatGPT to that conversation, and it is quite human-like. It's quite natural. So that's what we're testing out now. And for those that want to sort of get on the wait list to start testing it out with us, we love that.
It makes sense, and I think it's a great use case for ChatGPT being obviously even in the name, right, the chat piece. Are there any other promising applications that you can think of that is not, because most people are talking about, hey, let's create blogs, let's create content. Is there any other applications that you're thinking that you're analyzing with similar AI technology that maybe you can share to our listeners?
I think the most important thing is to give customers the choice.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, nobody wants to feel like they've been responded to like by a robot. And this is the wonderful thing about ChatGPT is you could let it handle all of your, well, many of your daily tasks, and most people would be none the wiser. But you do need that element of human review. There are a lot of unknowns. There've been a few embarrassing mishaps by some of the more well-known AI tools. So yeah, I think that what our customers and what all brands and marketers really would benefit from the most is the choice, the option to automate everything, some things, or none. But let's give everyone all the possibilities, so they have complete control.
Yeah, and I think besides the choice of giving it to customers, I think you guys hit a pretty interesting point, because I keep hearing this human touch, right? Like this human review, this human interaction. So what do you think are the risks or ethics that could probably be potentially compromised, Jen, that brands should really take care of? Like what should they be looking out for? Because I've seen it, right? Like things are getting a little bit out of control because it's just too easy to fake things. So what do you think is involved there?
Well, this is a really important point for brands out there. When you have to be careful in how you're using technology like this, right? And where that information is coming from. So, like I was saying, we're a trusted source with our brands. We partner with our brands to ensure that we have pure and accurate data quality. And so when we point, an AI bot to that information, we know that it will be able to pull the information correctly. Now, if you don't know the source of where a chat bot is like pulling the information from, that could be very bad, right? So you do not want any technology that you're not aware of where the source is as your brand. Could you imagine just allowing ChatGPT as it is today to respond to customers based off of the information they find about your brand on the internet, right? It'd be full of inaccuracies and potential red flags for the PR department to have to deal with. So that's the number one, is like, know where the data is coming from. Ask a lot of questions to any technology provider about that.
I'd also add to that as well. We can't ignore that there will be different levels of adoption and regulation around
That's a great point.
ChatGPT in different regions. So, I mean, I'm not sure if you already heard, but if we have a look at Europe, for example, there's already whispers about trying to crack down a little bit on ChatGPT. Is it in breach of GDPR? Because over here in Europe, we've got much stricter data protection laws, and brands need to be aware of that, and also organizations like Uberall need to be very mindful of how they use these types of solutions in line with what the data regulation policies are. So I do imagine the adoption will be widespread globally, but I imagine there to be quite quickly some more restrictions and a bit more of a framework to work around in Europe before there is in North America.
Yeah, that is a fantastic point. And one of the things as Uberall, as product development group, we, like I was saying, with always having a hybrid approach, so looking specifically at a country like Italy that has just banned ChatGPT, and okay, so we have other technology we can sort of move in there, right? And so maybe in Italy it isn't as human-like conversation that's pointing to data. Maybe there are a couple extra steps that have to be involved. Humans have to review it a little bit more. So we, as a technology group, are always looking at that and have the ability to move with those regulations. So it's a really great point.
Yeah, and I would be curious to hear a little bit more, Liz, on obviously you lead the product partnerships team at Uberall, and I would want to hear a little bit of what do you think this could help or benefit partners that that you're already working with, or how can this technology make that connection or that relationship any different? Because obviously it's not just for direct brands that this is helping or impacting. What do you think it's the impact on partnerships?
The possibilities are endless, right? I'm not sure if you've already noticed, but ChatGPT already has some plugin partners. One of which is OpenTable, and it's a great way for any technology company to surface commands, let's say. So in a very similar way, I find to how Amazon Alexa has skills that you can create for Alexa. You can create plugins for ChatGPT. ChatGPT is in its infancy.
We're going on version 4 now, and all of the visual capabilities, right, that they're thinking of pulling into it, that is going to be huge. And for our customers specifically, right, visual search is just growing and growing, not just through the upcoming release of ChatGPT, the new version, but also with Google, right? Google's putting so much money into visual search. So ensuring, and we're all just more visual now, right? We read less, we respond much more to visual cues. How we think about listings in general is no longer, reading necessarily as much as responding to the photos that are there, right? And if you think about that tied to an AI bot recommending things that are visual, not just here's text, right? The world kind of opens up in a different way. I really want to see the locations that I'm searching for. I want to see everything about it, you know? I don't just want to know how to get there. You know, I want to know like how the parking is around it. You know, is there a place to park? Is that, you know, that I can like really look, and people are already doing that today with maps, right? And looking at the satellite view. Having a visual component to search is going to be huge. So I think there's so much more that's coming around us.
Absolutely. And we've got to remember as well, AI is a bit of a marketing term. Really what it means is it's technology powered by data, right? The machine doesn't know anything without the input. And where we accelerate is we will make sure that we can give ChatGPT or any other technology solution the input it needs to provide users with the data that they're looking for, be that text, imagery, or anything else. There will always be a need to make sure that these solutions are fed with the right core data to give the most useful answers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I really want to take a few seconds and thank you guys for joining me today in this conversation. I mean, we can keep talking for hours about ChatGPT and all things, but thank you so much, Liz and Jen, for joining us today. And with that, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you like this Local Marketing Beat podcast, please subscribe and share it with your colleagues and friends and even family if they're curious about ChatGPT. And if you're curious about Uberall, you know, go to Uberall.com to learn more. I will see you next time. And thanks again, Liz and Jen.